Alright, so this is the De Bello Gallico, Book 5, Chapter 45, and remember we have just now highlighted the great heroic behavior of two particular centurions, Pullo and Varenus, and now we have the aftermath of that great attack on that windy day that the Gauls have made upon Cicero's camp. So it says, dative of degree of difference, by how much more serious and more harsh the attack, and that is nominative, appugnatio, appugnatione, was, and in dies means like day after day, and most greatly because with a large part of the soldiers having been, instead of confecta, you could put a different prefix, ad, having been affected by wounds, the situation, the res, nominative, singular, had arrived to a paucity of defenses, to a smallness of defenses. So by however much greater and tougher it got, tanto, whenever you see a quanto or a tanto, look for the other, because it is being used correlatively. By that much more frequent, celebriores, letters and messengers were being sent to Caesar. So the tougher the situation became for Cicero, the more often that letters are being sent by Cicero to Caesar. So, by how much more serious and harsh the attack was day after day, and most especially, most greatly, because with a large part of the soldiers having been affected with wounds, the situation had arrived to a paucity of defenses. They're running out of people, they're running out of things. By that much, more frequent letters and messengers were being sent to Caesar. The part of whom, these messengers, having been caught, having been apprehended, not deprehensa, but apprehensa, having been caught, they were being killed, nagebator, in the view of our soldiers, cum cruciatu, with torture. And so they would catch these people and out in front of the camp so all the Roman soldiers could see. They would obviously torture them and kill them. And so we find out the solution then. There was one guy inside, a Nervius guy, a person of that tribe, by the name Vertico, having been born in an honest place. In other words, he is a fellow who has some position within society, some status within society. So, on the inside of the camp, Cicero has one of the Nervii who makes the good decision that he's not going to join his countrymen, but he's going to go over to the side of Cicero. This guy, having been born, perfect passive-looking participle, from nascor, nasci, natasum, a guy who had fled to Cicero from the first siege. So the moment that the siege began, he said, no, I am not going to go down with my countrymen. I'm going over to Cicero's side. And he had Christithanat. He had offered, pluperfect ending, perfect stem, his own faith to him, dative case, Cicero implied. Isaid, aesaesaeus, ae. This guy persuades, in the present tense, the perfect would be persuasit, persuades his slave. That verb takes a dative object. So he persuades his slave with hope, ablative, of liberty, and with great rewards that he carry, subjunctive there because we are in, obviously, he persuades him, that is a commandy verb, so this would be the indirect command, that he carry letters to Caesar. This is perfect. 1, he is of that tribe. 2, he's a slave. And so therefore, he can slip through unnoticed. That guy, meaning the slave of Verticus, he brings these letters, implied, the litteras, having been tied, ligo legare, legavi legatus, on his spear. And a Gaul among Gauls, Versatus, having been active. A Gaul having been active. Verso versare means to be active, not to turn, but to be active. Among Gauls, without any suspicion, he arrives to Caesar. He gets through because he sounds like the Gauls, because he is a Gaul. He looks like the Gauls because he is a Gaul. And even better, he is a slave. Nobody notices a slave. They are invisible in society in some ways. And so therefore, he gets through. Ab eo de periculis ciceronis cognoscitur. And it is learned. Caesar loves the impersonal passive. From this guy, this slave, ab eo, from him, about the dangers of Cicero and the legion. So Caesar finds out the Gauls' days are going to be numbered. Caesar, with the letters having been received, immediately he sends a messenger into the Bellovaci to Marcus Crassus the quaestor. And with the letters having been received, around the 11th hour of the day. Remember, the first hour of the day is from 6 to 7. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 p.m. is around the time. That would be the 11th hour. So immediately, in at ablative, the 11th hour of the day, around then, immediately he sends a messenger into the Bellovaci to Marcus Crassus the quaestor, whose winter camp was away from that guy 25,000 of paces, 25 miles. So Marcus Crassus is about 25 miles away. He orders a legion to set out in middle night. Usually you don't travel at night, but this is serious, this is urgent. And quickly, celeriterque, to come to him. So, Crassus goes out with the messenger. Usually you send the messenger ahead. Crassus, urgent, he sets out. He then sends another messenger to Gaius Fabius the legate, that he lead out a legion into the borders of the Atrebates. This is genitive plural, tells me it's third declension. We refer to the tribe, the something A's. The Atrebates, by, with, because of, from, in, on, at, but also remember it can also mean where. So into the border of the Atrebates, where he knew that a journey, faciendum esse, must be made. Dative of agent. Future passive periphrastic showing obligation. Dative of agent. By him. Basically what he is doing is he's clearing the road. He tells him, go through the Atrebates and get it to where it's set up. Have my supply lines ready. Have my obvious stops ready for me and my legion. We have got to move, and we have got to move fast. And the way that you can move the fastest is to have all things taken care of ahead of time, so that obviously Caesar and his men won't have to worry about going and foraging, or won't have to worry about any sort of ambushes along the way. He sends guys ahead because he knows that they will be able to, quote, clear that path. He writes to Labienus, if he would be able, could be able, might, it's an infinitive plus anything, to do it with convenience for the Republic, if it wasn't too much trouble, that he, Labienus, come with a legion to the borders of the Nervii. So he writes to Labienus, well, I want you to go up, and I want you to be ready to two-pronged attack with me. Remember that Labienus is the other camp that was most close to Crassus, or to Cotta and Sabinus. And so therefore, he writes to him, but only do it if you think it'd be safe. That's what this means. If he was able to do it for the Republic with convenience, conveniently, in other words, not risking too much. He does not think that the remaining part of the genitive singular army, there it is, exercitus expectandum esse, again, shows obligation, must be expected, because it was away more longly Paolo by a little bit. And so he's not looking to get the whole of the army. He just needs these essential elements. The two that he had mentioned previously, and now that one with Labienus. He then collects around 40 cavalry from the closest winter camps. And so he immediately springs to action. He then, remember, tells the first two guys on the other previous part of this chapter to go to these locations to where he knows he's going to have to going through to set up supply chains, supply lines, those sorts of things like that. So he and his men have to worry about nothing but marching as fast as possible. And then he writes to Labienus to see if he can join up with him, but only if it is going to be safe enough. He doesn't know, since Labienus is in that part of Gaul as well, as to whether perhaps Labienus could possibly be under siege in the way that Cicero is. And so in the next chapter, we will read 47 and 48 of what exactly happens.